The biggest commodity that the NBA has to offer is not the teams and is not even the basketball that's being played. It is the players and what those players decide to do with their career. Player movement is a big moneymaker in the NBA. Not only does it create money by all the extra jersey sales for the new jerseys, but it also creates interest and more eyes on the product. With that in mind, I have 7 NBA trades today that could absolutely shake the future of the league. I'm not going to bury the lead here. The first one is a heater. Now, by the time I'm recording this video, we are in the conference finals. We have seen exactly what has happened to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Put up a good fight against the Mavs, but ultimately couldn't get over the hump. This is the first lump that they have to take as a young team. So now the Thunder have decisions to make. Do you hope that the people outside of your own big three, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and SGA, do you hope that those other role players and the bench players can produce into something that is a good talent to put you over the hump? Or do you expedite the process and go get a superstar? Now, there is also going to be a very real possibility that the Phoenix Suns are going to have to blow it up this year. They have so much money tied up into 3 players, and with no hope in sight and no potential assets to even speak of to help and get young talent around that big 3, there's a real possibility that they have to blow it up. And if they do, the Thunder need to get in on the Devin Booker business. The trade that I have here, admittedly, I don't know if it would work. I know that you can add trade exceptions, but admittedly, I am not a cap guy. I don't know what you can and cannot do with the trades. However, the Thunder can very easily give up Josh Giddey, who was an absolute nothing in this playoffs, and 8 or more first-round picks for Devin Booker, and it's a win-win for both. The Thunder get Devin Booker, a bona fide superstar, a bona fide scorer, and a backcourt of him and SGA would be absolutely deadly, not to mention the fact that you're going to have Chet Holmgren running around with that trio as well. And then on top of that, for the Suns, you get 8 first-round draft picks, and they don't even have to be the Thunders. They have garnered so many assets, and those picks have protections that could be very favorable to the Suns. So the first one is going to be a big swing. The Thunder could be a very, very likely possibility for a finals appearance if they could pull this off. And if you're going to trade Devin Booker, if you're going to trade your homegrown talent, there is absolutely no need to keep anything else. You're going to trade Bradley Beal to whoever will take him, but that's not what this trade is about. We are going to send Kevin Durant to the New York Knicks. Now, Kevin wanted to call New York home for a very long time. During the summer when he left the Golden State Warriors, it came down to a couple of teams, but the Knicks were very much in contention. He chose ultimately to go to Brooklyn rather than New York because of the front office situation. And times have changed. The front office seems confident. They get the right pieces involved. This young Knicks team is so scrappy and so skilled that I'd have to imagine if they didn't run into so many injury problems, they would be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they would have a very good shot to take out the Celtics and be the Eastern Conference representative in the NBA Finals. So now that they haven't, now that that isn't the situation, how do you retool? How do you recover from this huge loss, this huge morale deflation? You get a superstar. You get Kevin Durant. And in my suggestion, we're going to trade Kevin Durant to the Knicks, and in return, the Phoenix Suns get Julius Randle and 3 first-round picks. So now for the Suns, in 2 big swings, you have recovered so much draft capital. You've recovered, at a minimum, 11 first-round picks to kickstart this rebuild. It's not going to be pretty. You're going to have some misses in the drafts. But if you can't get it done with the team right now, if you can't get it done how the team is currently constructed, you might as well blow it up. And if you're going to blow it up, get as many draft assets as possible. So again, in those 2 trades, you have put Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in way better situations than you have in Phoenix, and that's the least that you could do as a front office. We're heading down to Atlanta this time. Now, I have already talked about how the Atlanta Hawks can essentially fix their situation right now. I talked about it in a different video. You can check that out in the video description below. But one of the pieces in here is definitely going to happen. I think that there is a chance that both Trae Young and DeJounte Murray get traded. And I'm kind of tired talking about Trae Young being traded somewhere. I believe that he's going to go to the Spurs, but that's just my opinion. This other piece, I think, is going to be actually more vital to your team than what you can do with any other trade. So we're going to trade DeJounte Murray to Miami. Miami needs to retool. They have needed to retool for a couple years, but I think their backs are against the wall now, that they know that they have to make changes. DeJounte Murray also seems like a Heat culture guy, and him and Jimmy Butler have a very good relationship. So if you're going to blow it up, if you're Atlanta, if you're going to trade Trey and DeJounte and all your other pieces to get younger talent, try to get a younger talent. Tyler Hero is not young by any stretch of the imagination, but the trade that I have is DeJounte Murray for Tyler Hero and a 2030 first round pick. So in that video that I talked about earlier, the Hawks still have the number 1 pick. They're going to take Stephon Castle out of UConn. They're going to trade Trey Young to the Spurs for the number 4 pick and pick up Donovan Clingan. So now your young nucleus of talent is Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan, Jalen Johnson, who is a most improved player candidate next year, and Tyler Hero. So at the very least, you're going to have an entertaining group to watch in this rebuild situation. Now to the other Florida team. I have so much faith in the Orlando Magic. If I wasn't a Celtics fan, I think that I would be a Magic fan. They are just so talented and so scrappy. It's just not their time, though. Paolo has strides to make. Franz Wagner did not have a great series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So if you could, do you, again, rest on your laurels, much like the Thunder earlier in this video, or do you expedite the process? And the Magic are in a position where they can expedite it and not really lose any core pieces. In my suggestion, you go after the person that took you out. In this suggestion, Donovan Mitchell is going to get traded for filler and 3 first-round picks from the Magic. I put in the suggestion Gary Harris and Jonathan Isaac. That's just for the salaries to match up. It could be other things as well. I know that the Magic have too many hands in the kitchen as far as the point guards are concerned. Do you bring Markelle Fultz back? What do you do with Anthony Black? Do you keep Jalen Suggs? Do you keep Cole Anthony? A lot of decisions have to be made. So you could ultimately have to throw one of those guys in that trade as well. But I think ultimately when you are going to have someone so dominant like Donovan Mitchell, when you see what he can do in the playoffs specifically, pairing a superstar like that with a young and up-and-coming talent in Paolo Banchero, it's only going to prove so vital to your team and have dividends for years to come. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to have big decisions to make too. And I think if you are presented with one of the 2 options, going for the now or preparing for the future, I think the writing's kind of on the wall for Donovan Mitchell. So if he's going to go out, you might as well send him somewhere where you can get actual good talent, or at the very least, someone who's going to fall off your books for the next year. Now, this next one, I don't think I have heard anyone talk about so far. This only came up because I was talking to my friend Riley, who is a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, and he just started watching basketball this year. He is now going through the ups and downs that is Karl Anthony Towns in the playoffs. He has almost been in Minnesota for 10 years now, and at the time of recording, they're down 2-0 to the Mavs. Not all of it has been Karl Anthony Towns' fault, but he has definitely not helped his case in a lot of instances there. He's had spurts of goodness, but then on the other end, mind-boggling decisions. So I think that it may be time to move on from Karl Anthony Towns and allow Naz Reid to take his spot and improve from this 6th Man of the Year campaign. And in my suggestion, we are going to send Karl Anthony Towns to the Milwaukee Bucks for Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, and 2 first-round picks. And it's just a good shakeup for both. I know that Milwaukee loves Chris Middleton. I know how good Chris Middleton is because he is an absolute Celtics killer. Anytime that the Celtics play the Bucks, Chris Middleton turns into Michael Jordan himself. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why it's against us, but it happens all the time. So I know how good Chris Middleton can be. And in the playoffs, in this playoff run, when Anthony Edwards has had a fantastic run, when he has been on, there have been instances where they are doubling him, they are blitzing him, they are pushing him out of the way to disrupt his rhythm, and he doesn't have another offensive outlet to make things happen. That fixes it. This trade fixes that because you are losing Karl Anthony Towns. Absolutely. It isn't that big of a deal, though, when you have Naz Reid filling in this place. So with this trade, you are now looking at a starting vibe of Mike Conley or Jaden McDaniels. I don't know what the situation there is. I don't know if Mike is ever going to go to a bench role. Either way. Let's assume that he doesn't, though. Let's assume that he's still the starter next year. So Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Chris Middleton, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. And I have to say, that seems pretty deadly. That seems like a team who can go back to the conference finals. And for Milwaukee, you have a new big three. You have Giannis, Kat, and Damian Lillard, which is a horrifying trio to think about on paper. So this is just a good facelift for both teams. To New Orleans now. There have been reports that Brandon Ingram's time in New Orleans may be over. It was a good run, you know? You have Zion. You had traded for Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram in that Anthony Davis trade, and you gave it a go, and it just didn't work out. There were times during the season where Brandon Ingram and Zion were both on at the same times, and it was demoralizing for teams. They did not know how to handle both of them being on at the same time. The problem is that in the 82-game season, that probably happened like 5 times. So in my eyes, this experiment is over. There is one team in particular who I think could use Brandon Ingram the most, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. They are reeling from a bad season. Of course, Ja had the 25-game suspension. He didn't play the first 25 games, and then he played 4 or 5 games and then immediately got hurt, shut down the rest of the year. So if you're the Grizzlies, you just pretend like this year absolutely did not happen. You retool. And you were already in the news last year because apparently you were offering the Brooklyn Nets 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. So let's do something similar here. In my trade suggestion, we're going to trade Brandon Ingram to the Memphis Grizzlies, and in return, the Pelicans get Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, and 3 first-round picks. Now, if you are trading Brandon Ingram, I don't think that you necessarily need someone who is older like Marcus Smart on your team. So in that scenario, I think that it's a release kind of deal. I think that you waive him and allow him to pursue another avenue in his career. Luke Kennard could be a good shooter for that role. And because Brandon Ingram is left, you are opening holes for other young talent like Jordan Hawkins and Dyson Daniels to fill the role. And if you're going to trade away Brandon Ingram, I don't see the point in keeping Zion Williamson either. And I know that that's going to ruffle some feathers, but it's time for a change. The Zion experiment has not worked. It hasn't provided anything fruitful in your venture. So if you move on from Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and if you're going to do that, probably CJ McCollum too, you are allowing the opportunity for your young guys, Jordan Hawkins, Dyson Daniels, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones. You are allowing them to blossom into top-end talent, and at a bare minimum, preparing them, increasing their draft value or their stock, and trading them for something good or more draft picks down the line. So if you're going to do all of that, if you're going to trade Brandon Ingram, trade Zion to another up-and-coming, hungry, talented team like the Houston Rockets. In my suggestion, we are going to send Zion to Houston, and in exchange, get Dylan Brooks, Uncle Jeff, and 4 first-round picks. Now, does this say to your team, the Houston Rockets, we are going for this now? Yes, absolutely. But I watched this Rockets team probably closer than a lot of other people that weren't fans of the Rockets did, because I love Alperen Sengun. He's like a top 5 player in the league for me to watch right now as far as favorites go. I love how he operates in the high post area. His vision is fantastic. But I also watched Jalen Green become a defensive monster when asked to. I watched Jabari Smith Jr. become a 40% shooter on those catch and shoots. I saw him develop into this Kevin Durant type mold that everyone was talking about coming into the draft. So if you're going to add Zion Williamson to that young elite trio, it could cause some real big problems for the rest of the league. And again, you are allowing Houston to take a stab at it. You're allowing them to put the feet to the fire of a lot of their guys and say, hey, we're doing this now. And the Pelicans get a new start. In those 2 trades, you get 7 first-round picks, and that's on top of the 17 or however many you have already. So I think this could, again, be both very good for both teams. But that's all I have. Who do you think is going to get traded? I don't know how many of these trades will actually go through. I do think that there's a chance that some of them could happen or some variation of them. But it's the player movement that makes me the most excited about the NBA offseason. It's the best, but who do you think is going to get moved? While you're down in the comments, let me know who you think is going to get moved. Check out the links in my description. I have a link tree there. Join our Discord. Check me out on Instagram. Check me out on TikTok. I do YouTube Shorts. I write a blog. All of the things. Stay connected with me. You have a good day, and most importantly, tell somebody you love them.